Hi, I'm Tati. Let's solve the mystery of the box in the woods. So this is sort of a new type of video for my channel. I had this idea because I love reading mystery books. And one of the best parts of mystery books is trying to see if you can solve the mystery while you're reading before the big reveal. And so I thought it might be fun to do sort of a series of videos, I guess, where I try to solve the mystery as I'm reading the book and share all my thoughts and theories. So it's sort of like a read-along. I think I'm gonna do 3 videos where I read the first part, the second part, and then the third part of the book. So if you haven't read the book yet, you can read along with me and share your theories. And so it's sort of gonna be reading vlog style. Each video will be 10 chapters. So this video will end with me reading chapter 10 and I will share my thoughts as I'm reading. And now that all of that explanation is out of the way, let's talk about The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. This is the 4th and final, I think, book in the Truly Devious series, though it is sort of standalone in that it's a different mystery from the rest of the series. So it's, I believe, its own contained standalone mystery. I personally loved the Truly Devious trilogy, so I'm super excited to read The Box in the Woods. In this one, Stevie is invited to work on a true crime podcast about a case from 1978 which took place at a camp where 4 camp counselors were found dead in the woods, hence The Box in the Woods. And the synopsis says that she will be bringing her friends from Ellingham Academy along, so I'm really excited to jump back into this world. So I'm going to start reading. Hi, so I'm back. I have just finished chapter 3 of The Box in the Woods, so I thought I would do an update. So the first thing we got in the book is a flashback to 1978, and we have 4 teenagers in the woods: Eric, Todd, Sabrina, and Diane. And because we have read the synopsis, we know that all 4 of them are going to die in the woods. And after this first flashback, I'm not sure if these murders are personally connected to them, or if it's more of a wrong place, wrong time sort of situation. It is mentioned that there are a lot of things bothering Sabrina, so maybe that will come back around. And then we get an article, which is a nice little refresh of the last 3 books. And then we have chapter 1 really getting into the story now. We're back with Stevie, who I adore. But after chapter 1, I am already suspicious of Carson, and I have a lot of questions. First of all, what is Box? Because that hasn't been explained. Why are they making a true crime podcast? Why did they buy the camp? Why do they not just invite Stevie there, but are also paying her to be there and are letting her invite friends if it sweetens the deal? Which I guess it all boils down to, why do they want to solve the case? Which could boil down to, they bought this camp and it has the stigma of the murders, and if they solve the murder, maybe the camp will be more popular. Maybe it's a publicity thing because it's the Box in the Woods murder and their box. I don't know, but until we know the motive behind wanting to solve the case, he's suspicious to me. We have another flashback. Bridget is a little scary, honestly. And why was Eric found so close to camp? And then flashback number 3 introduces us to a few more characters. Magda and Susan and Brandy is still in the flashbacks, but I don't find any of them suspicious. And then there's Sean, who I don't have any good reason to suspect, but he was just barely mentioned, and I feel like that's something that they could come back to. He was barely mentioned as like being in the lake house and always being reliable, and that was it. And the only other place nearby with a phone. And then we go into chapter 3, and Nate is in this chapter. Does Nate have to be so relatable? He's like, might turn into my favorite character. Still don't know why Carson wants to solve the murder, besides the fact that he thinks he can because he owns the camp. And I really hope that little line of Nate's where he says that murder story at camp is how he wants to go is more comedy and less foreshadowing, but that last line of the chapter is definitely foreshadowing. And those are all of my thoughts for now. It's mostly a lot of questions and probably a lot of red herrings. So I will be back once I've read a bit more. Hi. So I've just finished reading chapter 6, and I thought it would be a good time to update you on more of my thoughts, because they're kind of all over the place at the moment. So where I left off last time, I believe, was before the 4th flashback. So flashback number 4 brings the sheriff into it, but it honestly gives me more questions than answers. Like, who is Michael Penhale? What happened to him? Whatever happened definitely sounds like it was a part of a cover-up. It was covered up, I guess. I don't know how else a sheriff's reputation gets tainted. Also, in what way exactly was the mayor involved before, and why do they not want him involved again? It all seems to be pointing to this being something that Todd did and then they covered up, and then he possibly got killed for it. And also, assuming that the other 3 teens were found in the box, why was Eric the only one left out? And then chapter 4, we finally find out that BoxBox is a subscription box company, because of course it is. It's a box of boxes. And so one of the big unanswered questions of the case is why Sabrina went to the woods that night. In this chapter, we also find out that Sabrina is the only one without a head wound and with defensive wounds. And since Eric was found outside of the box, it seems to me like in Sabrina's situation, she surprised the killer. The killer didn't know she would be there, which makes me think that the killer went there specifically to kill either Todd or Diane or both of them. It seems like they're the only 2 that he or she cared about killing. The copycat woodsman thing is kind of interesting, but I find it more interesting that evidence was gotten rid of. It's just like gone, and it seems to point maybe to another cover-up. And so the going theory is that Todd killed Michael, but I'm not 100% sure if that's true yet. I just don't have enough information. And there is more to Sean, who we saw earlier in the book, but not much was mentioned about him. Apparently he was dating Sabrina, and they had broken up before she was murdered. And apparently both Michael's brother, Paul, and Sean were at the camp, and they are each other's alibis for the night of the murder. Though apparently Susan also saw them that night. I don't know enough about Susan to know if she would lie, or she could have missaw or misspoken. I don't know. So I do think right now, with the information I have at the end of chapter 5, I think those 2 are my top suspects, Paul and Sean. Like, I don't know anything about them really, but they're the most suspicious, which probably means they didn't do it, because it's a murder mystery fictional story, so the most obvious answer is probably not the right one. And then in chapter 5, we meet Patty. I'm a little surprised that she's the first one we're meeting in present day. It makes me wonder if I dismissed her too quickly from the flashbacks. And then we get to see the reading room, which is a tribute to Sabrina. And we meet her sister, who I don't think is suspicious at the moment. I do have a feeling the fact that Sabrina loved turtles might come back later, maybe in the form of a clue. I'm going to try to remember it, so if something about turtles pops up later, I'll remember it's about Sabrina. And we finally got, like, straight out Carson saying that his motive for solving this case is to make the show successful and make him a lot of money. So that was a question I had from the beginning. What is his actual motive for solving the case? It seems to be just money. And then chapter 6. So in this one we find out that Eric almost got away from the killer, and that's why they assume he was so close to camp when he was found. It still doesn't really explain to me why the killer still didn't take him back and put him in the box with the others. It was also a very interesting point that I hadn't thought of before either when Stevie brought it up, but the remoteness of where they were in the woods. Someone would have to know where they were to find them. because it was not an easy place to just stumble across. It seems to make the murders more purposeful, and less of a wrong place, wrong time situation like I mentioned at the beginning. And so those are all of my thoughts at the moment. I'm going to be reading more of this book later today, maybe outside because it's cool outside. It finally feels like fall, so we'll see. And then I will be back with more thoughts. Hi. So I'm back, and where we are right now, I believe where we left off is flashback number 5. So, I mean, we get introduced to the parents, but more importantly, we get to see Brandy again. I really don't think she had anything to do with it besides finding Eric's body, of course, but apparently she was right about whoever it was still being in town, meaning it's probably somebody who lived in the town and somebody who is possibly still living in town. And then we had chapter 7, and in chapter 7 Nate made an excellent point about how weird all this stuff that Carson is doing is. I also find it interesting that we keep seeing more and more of Sabrina's sister Allison, and the fact that she wants Sabrina's diary. I don't know if that is suspicious or if it suggests the family wanting to know why Sabrina went into the woods that night. And Patty seems super nice. I am really hoping that she turns out to have nothing to do with anything. And then in chapter 8, we got to learn a lot about Patty's dad. And especially after hearing Patty's story, I really do feel like she's innocent. I do think there might be more to Greg's death, though. And then chapter 9, all of Nate's trope talk is starting to make me wonder if this is somebody who was obsessed with horror movies and was trying to reenact one. And then the article says that Sabrina was perfect and that her sister Allison worshipped her. So maybe Allison didn't like being compared to her perfect older sister, or is it possible that when Sabrina stopped being perfect, Allison took it the wrong way? And with the last thing that happens, the surprise at the end of this chapter, I know that I am probably jumping the gun here, but I already have a feeling that any creepy stuff that happens to them modern day is being done by Carson to make his show more interesting. And then we have the 6th flashback, and in this one I think the most interesting piece of information is that Greg wouldn't give up who he was buying from, and I don't know if that's because whoever this person is, it's obvious that they couldn't have done this, or if it's because he's afraid of the person he was buying from. And then in chapter 10, even Stevie acknowledges the fact that Carson is going to love the fact that surprise was written on their wall. So I'm going to continue to believe that he did it until it's proven otherwise. And that's all I've got at the end of chapter 10. We are about a third of the way through the book, which means we are at the end of this first video. And honestly, when I started this, I thought that I would have some kind of idea what was going on by a third of the way through. I have absolutely no idea who done it at this point. If I have to choose one top suspect at this point, I might go with Allison, though it doesn't really make sense for it to have been Allison since she would have been so young at the time. And these were 4 teenagers, 2 of them male, 1 of them a football player. If you are reading along with me, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are at this time. What are your suspicions? Who do you think is behind the Box in the Woods mystery? I am really enjoying reading this book, and I will be making 2 more videos in this series trying to figure out the mystery of the Box in the Woods. So give this video a like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thanks for watching. Bye.